Hello and Happy New Year. In part 2 of Plato, we will look at previous year questions from this topic and also look at how to write good answers. What are the things you must avoid and what are the things you must include in your answers to make it a good answer to score well. So let's begin. If you see from Plato, two questions have been asked previously in last 10-11 years. The first question is Plato was an enemy of open society. A 20 marker is an analytical question. And second, critically examine Plato's theory of forms. A 15 marker. This is a straightforward question. However, you will not be able to do justice to this question if you do not have conceptual clarity about the concepts and the political thought given by Plato. So it is important students focus on attaining conceptual clarity, understanding the concepts, the terms, the theories given by political thinkers to attempt such straightforward questions. Now let us look at how to answer these questions well. So we are looking at the first question. Plato was an enemy of open society. Comment, a 20 marker. Let us look at the mistakes that students make in writing answers. I have included an answer given by some student to show what mistakes students often make. If you see in this answer, Plato is generally the student has given an introduction about Plato. Plato is generally regarded as the founder of philosophical idealism. European philosophical tradition is nothing but footnotes of Plato. If you see, this introduction is irrelevant. It does not address the demand of the question. It is nowhere connected to the question itself or what the question is asking. So the first mistake that students make is they give an irrelevant intro in their answer. The question must maybe asking about X and the demand is X, but students will go and introduce Y. If this question is about whether Plato was an enemy of open society, you should introduce that rather than just giving a very generic introduction of Plato. Not focusing on the demand of the question. Now, if you see the second paragraph, while there are many admirers to Plato, he was equally criticized by the liberals in the 20th century. They call Plato as the front runner of the modern day totalitarianism. Now, this after giving so much description, finally the student has come to the demand of the question, which should have ideally been given in introduction itself. So if you give too many description or too much information or just parroting what you have read, then it does not amount to a good answer. You should first and foremost just focus on what the question is asking, what is the demand of the question. Third mistake the students make is irrelevant information or descriptive answers, as I have shown here. Fourth mistake the students make is they do not use keywords or concepts in their answers. They write very generic answers, which often make it similar to their GS answers. Missing interlinkages between paragraphs. That is, for this paragraph has no relation with this paragraph. There's a disconnect. This paragraph they have introduced the concept of Plato as enemy of open society, and then they go on to talk about liberal democrats having experienced the brutality of fascism. Again, there's disconnect between these two paragraphs. Further, if you see, there's another example that I have taken. Here, After introducing the question demand of the question adequately, students often put a paragraph that is not relevant to what the question has asked. According to Popper, if anyone is against Plato's idea, he is seduced by Plato's style of writing. Now, this is not really relevant in your first paragraph your body. It could come as a penultimate paragraph or as a conclusion, but here it does not make sense. So, you should have a logical structure to your answer. Why should one paragraph or why should a point come before another point? There should be a logic to it. Now, after understanding what are the mistakes students often make in answer writing, let us look at a model answer and what are the features of a good answer. Features of a good answer is, first, the introduction will introduce the demand of the question. In this answer, if you see in this model answer, Karl Popper in his work The Open Society and Its Enemies have called Plato, Hegel and Marx as the enemy of open society. The question is asking comment on Plato was an enemy of open society, and the introduction has brought immediately the introduction immediately gets to the point that, see, this is the demand of the question. Directly come to the point without wasting words and time, as seen here. Use keywords and terms. Now, often what students do is they do not address the key concept asked in the question. Here the concept is, if Plato is called an enemy of open society, students must define what is an open society. I have seen so many answers where they will give the criticism given by Popper, but they will miss on this important concept, that what is an open society. If somebody is being called an enemy of open society, then you need to define what open society is. So your next paragraph should be defining the key concept of your question. Popper defines an open society which permits freedom of debate, discussion, and a democratic public sphere accessible to all. Most importantly, the accessibility and availability of socio-economic mobility with freedom to choose one's socio-economic station in society. See, when you have set the stage, see, this is what Popper means, what open society is. Now you can actually go on to establish why Plato is called as enemy of open society by Popper. Crisp and concise paragraphs with one idea in one paragraph. This is very important in learning how to write good answers. If you see this model answer, there is only one idea, one theme that each paragraph will deal with. So if here we have defined what Popper meant by open society, in the next paragraph we look at why Plato, like what is the gist of Plato's work. Plato in his work Republic provides for functional division and specialization of society. Functional division keyword, specialization keyword, into three classes: producers, guardians and rulers, based on the quality of their soul, keyword. This functional specialization of society creates a regimented society. Again, a keyword. Now, see, you can see a contrast coming right in the next paragraph where your Popper defines open society, which has, which is open to socio-economic mobility, whereas Plato in his work has created a regimented society. So this is how you logically go from one paragraph to another paragraph. And this keyword is often missed by students. So make sure that you write keywords that are crucial to address the demand of your question. Denying people access to political power and an opportunity of socio-economic mobility. Now you see how these two paragraphs are related, where you have said that this is open society, and then you have gone on to show that how Plato has created a regimented society based on functional specialization that prevents that socio-economic mobility, which is the hallmark of an open society. So that's how you create interlinkages between paragraphs. Next, Popper has criticized Plato's utopian social engineering primarily on three grounds. Now you get to the crux or the core of your answer. First, on the ground of holism. So what you will see here that each paragraph is based, it is based on one idea. It is crisp and concise. Plato prioritized the collective over the individual. The state was prior and more real than the individual who resided in it. Very concisely explained what Popper meant by his critique of holism. Second, on the ground of methodological essentialism. Again, very concisely explained that there's this unique special metaphysical knowledge which Plato termed as form, accessible only to the philosopher king and denied to the rest. Third, on the ground of historicism, that is, history follows some predetermined historical laws and that history has a necessary direction and end point. Historicism held that cities states move in cycles of a golden age followed by inevitable decay and collapse. Plato sought to provide a way to arrest this natural tendency towards moral and political decay through his newly fabricated closed utopian society developed in Republic, through creation of rigid hierarchical society governed by philosopher king whose knowledge of the forms would prevent decay as well as ensure the ruler's incorruptibility. So you see here it is very direct, it's very concise, it is giving that if historicism means this, the reason why Plato has used this is to ensure philosopher king's incorruptibility or to ensure that the ideal state does not decay. So it is to the point, very concise, and gives exact arguments. And again, using keywords: historicism, essentialism, holism. Plato saw this as justice, but Popper argued that it had all the hallmarks of totalitarianism, including rigid hierarchy, censorship, collectivism, central planning, all of which would be reinforced through propaganda and deception, or as Plato called them, noble lies. Again, please bookmark these keywords, understand these key terms which are necessary not only to show that you have read the necessary material or referenced the necessary books and you are aware of the theories, and but also that these keywords help you present your argument in a very concise and crisp manner. An example of Plato's functional specialization leading to hierarchized and regimented society can be seen in Indian caste system. This example is what gives you a brownie point, or what helps the examiner to understand or to know that you have understood the concept, that you have the conceptual clarity of what is being asked, over time leading to exploitation and subjugation of the lower caste. Then you give a conclusion. Conclusion is necessarily a summary of the argument that have been made in your answer. It also provides, it's about bringing together everything that has been said in your answer, providing an alternate view or a way forward if the demand of the question is such. Levinson, however, argues that Plato was writing in a different context and therefore not comparable. Despite his critique, Popper also recognizes the encyclopedic nature of Plato's work, and then he gives one can be Platonic or anti-Platonic. And then Brian Nelson claims that Republic continues to be a normative yardstick. So you have quoted important thinkers. You have given an example of the concept or theory. You have explained and you have given an analysis of the key terms or the critique. So this is what makes for a good answer. Focus on writing analytical answer rather than descriptive answer. So if you see in the last this, if you see this whole theory of Plato has been concised and summarized in one paragraph using key terms. Now, what happens? Students often make it a very descriptive answer, where they'll take the whole one page to explain that Plato was the first political philosopher. This was happening during his time. Athens was under a war, or class struggle, and that's why he was saying this and that. No, avoid all this. Your answer should be about analyzing what has been said. So these key terms, when you see holism, essentialism, historicism, you are actually analyzing what these terms mean and what are the implications of these terms. Your answer should therefore be analytical, as shown in this model answer. And finally, as shown, conclusion, which is to be relevant to the demand of the question. Looking at the second question, critically examine Plato's theory of forms. It is a very straightforward question. However, students struggle to write these answers because they are often lacking in conceptual clarity, or they are often not able to understand the theories. So it is very important that in Western political thought, in Indian political thought, and Western political ideologies or Indian political ideologies topic, you have conceptual clarity. It is only when you have this that you will be able to answer questions adequately. In Plato's theory of forms is a foundational idea in his philosophy, explaining the nature of reality and knowledge. So you have introduced the demand of the question. It provides the foundation for his views on knowledge, ethics, psychology, and the state. Also known as the theory of ideas, it suggests a dualistic view of existence, the imperfect, changing physical world of appearances, and a higher eternal realm of perfect forms or ideas. You have introduced the demand of the question. You have shown how Plato's theory of forms is actually the foundation for the rest of his political thought. So you have shown its importance. Then you go on to actually give arguments, key arguments, that the material world is an imperfect reflection and there is an unchanging reality, perfect and unchanging forms that exist in a higher transcendental realm. Keywords here again. For example, objects like a chair or a tree in the physical world are temporary and flawed versions of their ideal forms, which are eternal and universal. What is the implication of his theory of form? That true knowledge can only be gained by understanding these forms through reason, using the method of dialectics, as the physical world is unreliable and constantly changing. The highest of these forms is the form of the good. Students often miss this point in their understanding of theory of forms. That they forget to focus on his theory of good, which is the ultimate source of truth. Again, you show this theory through his allegory of the cave, where he compares humans to prisoners mistaking shadows on a wall for reality. Now, if you see this paragraph, you will realize that it is not describing the whole allegory of the cave. It is just giving the crux of it and showing what it means. One only by leaving the cave and seeing the actual objects in the light of the sun, symbolizing the good, can one attain real understanding. In Plato's view, this knowledge is necessary for wise and ethical living. Plato also applied, this is the implication, this theory to politics, that the philosopher kings who understand the forms are best suited to rule because of their knowledge of higher truths, especially the good, qualifies them to govern in the interest of all, ensuring justice and order in society. Now you come to the critique of it. Critics argue that this is very abstract, it is impractical. You then quote a thinker, in this case Aristotle, Plato's student, rejected the idea of forms, calling them empty abstractions. Again, keyword. He believed, then you give an alternate view that Aristotle has given, that the essence of things lies in their concrete reality, not in a separate realm. This critique challenges the separation between the world of forms and the physical world. Then again, another critique by Popper, the political implications of this theory. This is very important where you are getting to the point. See, theory of form is the foundation of Plato's theory, and his political thought is based completely on this. So when Popper is criticizing his political thought, he's actually criticizing his theory of form also. So he's criticizing that this theory of form can be misunderstood or misused in to create or establish totalitarianism, arguing that it supports an elitist and undemocratic system by justifying the rule of an enlightened few. Furthermore, the rigid separation between appearance and reality has been questioned by contemporary philosophers who emphasize the integration of sensory experience and reason. While Plato's theory of forms has been critiqued for its speculative and elitist element, it remains influential for addressing fundamental questions about reality, knowledge, and governance. Its emphasis on seeking higher truths continue to inspire philosophical thought. So you actually give the importance of the theory. So this is what makes for a good model answer, where one idea is consolidated in one paragraph in a very concise manner using key terms and key concepts. Crisp and concise paragraphs. There are interlinkages between paragraphs. Focus on writing analytical. Analytical means you're talking about implications of the theories. What are their consequences? What is the criticism? What is an alternate view of looking at it? And the conclusion to be relevant to the demand of the question. So that's all from Plato. These were the two questions that were asked previously. I hope you have understood what a good answer looks like, and you can use it. You can use these pointers that I have given to further improve your answer writing. Thank you.